This year is my 10th year making YouTube videos. In fact, my first ever training vlog, just like this one, I uploaded 10 years ago today, like the day I'm recording this on.
What is up guys, Tom here. I'm just going to talk you through my...
And that's why I've tried to start getting back into documenting training this year. Not because I'm the best athlete, but when I used to do it, it made me feel like I was part of a community. I'm sure like many of you, I started doing this training by myself. There was no one else to help me, and I learned a lot in the early days just by scouring through forums, things like TNation, bodybuilding.com, Reddit, and just reading and hearing from other people who understood the grind, the wins and the setbacks. It really helped just keep with the motivation and keep working through this whole training journey. And the thing about that journey that I didn't realize initially is that it's never ending. I always thought that like I would achieve X, Y, Z and I'd be, happy. But in reality of things, physical training, it's a tax that you have to pay until you die if you want a body that's able to move and serve you through life. So these goals, these things we set ourselves, they're carrots, they're dangling in front of us, they keep us motivated, they keep us interested, but the main thing is just continuing to show up. Until then, training. I've got some updates for you. We're going to delve into the weeds like old times. If you're interested in that, grab a coffee, grab a seat, and yeah, here's this month's update. So in regards to the upper body, I've actually got a session to do now in Loch Lomond, of all places. I actually don't think there's many more beautiful places in the world than Scotland, certainly if the sun is shining. So best thing about bodyweight training, we can take it anywhere. So I've got some rings. We're just going to set up somewhere, do some handstand push-ups. Let me fill you in what's been happening. So all of a sudden, we're like halfway through 2025. Actually, we're beyond halfway through. And I feel like considering I set some pretty ambitious goals for this year, there hasn't necessarily been the sense of urgency that is required to meet those goals. So I think the mistake I made here is really just getting distracted by the fancy thing. I already wanted those 10 freestanding handstand push-ups, mostly to make sure my shoulders, delts and pressing was as strong as possible. The handstand push-up is just too skill intensive, so the strength really isn't the limiting factor. Right now I am switching over to something more stable, these full range back to wall reps. They still have that freestanding pattern, but I can just end up pushing through failure and ultimately getting much more of that strength stimulus. These are actually a recommendation to me from a friend, Rafael. I thought I'd ask him a few more questions because I thought you might be interested to hear his advice on getting super strong, especially as bigger, kind of heavier guys.
You always aim to be as efficient as possible, right? So you don't have to do tons of exercise to get the planche very, very strong. You just have to find what limits. It's no coincidence that it's the same limiting factor for most people because the primary mover is the anterior deltoid, especially when you protract your shoulder blades. When you protract shoulder blades, you basically deactivate the chest. I think people overestimate the technique part. Let's say they were able to do a tuck planche on the first session. They just had the prerequisites, okay? That is what I mean, technique can be overemphasized. Everything that in terms of strength was already existent to be able to execute it. Now it's the same thing on a different scale for a straddle planche, especially for your height and your weight. The heavier and taller you are, the stronger, the primary movers need to be in orbit. So reaching higher and higher levels of bent arm before specializing. Then an exercise like wall supported, chest to wall or back to wall, especially the full range because you get in the deep arm angle closer to the body to get a very heavy stimulus for the shoulders to get strong so you can actually provide a solution for your planche.
So that's the plan, or at least in theory anyway. Now to put it into practice, and as always you can find the exact routine that I followed throughout this year is available in the description down below. Next up, I guess we'll cover legs. I want to say a quick thank you to the sponsor of today's video, and that is VivoBarefoot, my shoe of choice and has been now for like the past 8 years. You'll probably notice that most of the clips in this video are going to be wearing their new Primus light knit naturals. They're the usual flexible sole, max freedom, max movement of the foot, but they look damn sexy as well. You can save yourself 20% with this code down below. Help yourself out, support the channel, and yeah, thanks again to Vivo for sponsoring this video. Earlier I mentioned how goals are just that carrot that you dangle in front of you to keep you going, and ultimately the most important thing is to keep showing up. That's kind of the attitude that I've had to take for the past month when it comes to leg training. just because I've pushed a little bit too hard too soon with the weight. The resulting kind of knee discomfort wasn't by any means too bad to stop training, but certainly if I kept pushing, it would end up going in the wrong direction. So instead, this month I've switched to some posterior chain work and I've added some snatch grip deadlift. By elevating the feet and using a snatch grip, we're forcing ourselves to get as low to the bar as possible, trying to keep the back angle the same, not extending the knees too early, and that way using as much quad drive. So basically the most quad work without actually doing a squat. Just load management. So I'm still including it in there. I've just backed off the weight, doing something that's manageable, focusing on some paused positions. There is small step backs that we have, and they're not really catastrophic as long as we can keep chipping away, even if it feels that we're going at a slower pace than we'd expect. I've then given myself just a little bit of freedom when it comes to the accessory work, so I haven't had anything specific in. I've just said I'm going to do a quad dominant one, I'm going to do a knee flexion, a hamstring curl dominant one, and then I'm just doing it for some nice high reps. Again, just picking exercise based on feeling good, having positive experiences. I've dealt with a lot of rehab over the years, both myself and with clients, and if you can manage to find something that is going to have those positive experiences, give those positive outcomes, it makes all the world of difference, not only just in terms of keeping those activity levels a little bit higher, maintaining tissue capacity and actually getting better and seeing improvements, but from a mental point of view, it doesn't feel like as much of a setback. There's always something that you can do, slight reframing, make sure you keep ticking along. I want to finish up, as I said, with a community kind of aspect. I always ask in these videos, I want to hear from you. I want to hear in the comment section. Like, I read every single comment on this channel, and it's really one of the reasons that I love making YouTube videos. So if you had some advice, maybe if you've been doing this a while, some advice for you 10 years ago, let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts, your opinions on everything covered in this episode. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great one. Have a strong week, all that sort of good stuff. And I'll see you next time.